I was almost abducted by a serial killer. In February of 2012, I went to visit my grandfather's grave for his birthday. His death was a really hard thing for me to deal with, as he had died the year before, and it was still very fresh to me. I was kneeling in front of his grave with my head down, mourning and crying, when my body went into a full, danger is close by mode. I looked up to see a man running full sprint directly at me from the woods surrounding the cemetery. I forced myself to get back to my truck as quickly as possible without the man getting too close to me. My truck had been about 30 feet away from me, and by the time I made it back to my truck, he had gotten within 50 feet from me. I jumped in and locked the door, much to his apparent displeasure. He threw his hands up in a huff, like his favorite football team had just lost their game. I started up the truck and began to drive out as fast as I could, but not before driving right past him. I didn't break eye contact for a second, and neither did he. So I got a really good look at his face. Cut to a few years later, I'm bored at work and decided to download an app that had a ton of paranormal, cryptic, serial killer, and UFO articles called Paranormal News. As I was browsing through the serial killers, I came across one that made my heart drop into my stomach. He was Israel Keyes, most known for murdering an underage girl in Alaska, dismembering her body, and dropping the pieces into a frozen lake. He would bury kill kits all across America, long before he ever committed the crimes. After the incident in Alaska, he had traveled to Texas for a wedding in a city not too far from where I live, and had disappeared for a bit, and no one in his family knew where he was. He ended up getting arrested in that city and brought to the prison one city over from me before he was extradited back to Alaska to stand trial. About a year ago, I found a book about him that provided a lot of the details I've given here. He'd been killing for years, and no one knows what the actual death toll is. They estimate it's somewhere between 3 and 11. He eventually killed himself in prison later that same year. At the end of the book about him, he describes some of his favorite places to abduct people: public parks and cemeteries. I often wonder if there's a kit buried in those woods. You were fast, Israel, but I was faster, and I'm glad we didn't officially meet. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy listening to true crime or the creepiest stories from the internet, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and make sure to comment down below. I'll leave the link to the original Reddit post where I found this story in the description box down below. If you have a story you'd like for me to read, I'll leave my email in the description box down below. Send it to me there. But until next time, good night.